more to explore everything there is to know about this iconic band of brothers INXS, sharing music, tours, videos, albums, and oh, so much more.
Well, hello, welcome to INXS Access All Areas, episode 196, the podcast that aims to dive deep into all things great about this rock band INXS as we circle in 200 episodes. B, no more introductions about anyone and anything. People know who we are. We know who we are. We know who our audience is, and we love INXS. I feel fine. I feel refreshed, but I feel a little bit older since I last spoke to you. Hello, how are you?
Hello, how was the birthday?
Very quiet. Yeah, well, look, it was a birthday on Sunday in Australia. We have Father's Day the same day. So I know some countries around the world celebrated as well. So they had the double celebration with the one present, B.
I think you need to change your birthday, really, don't you? So you get extra presents.
Well, every 6 years with the leap year, it's going to be my lot in life. But it's great being a dad, and it was good having the kids on the day, doing all the cafe things, and the kids shouted daddy down at the cafe, which was nice. It was very quiet and relaxed, and thank you for taking the reins last week for what was, I think, a fun episode for you and our guest, Chrissy Vincent. Yeah,
well, it was a fun episode. Danielle jumped into your chair for me, which was awesome. Yes, thank you, Danielle. I think she's having a little bit of a rest. I haven't spoken to her for 2 days. So, we grabbed Chrissy Vincent in Melbourne. She is fantastic. I hope you all got to hear that. If not, I would say go listen. Poor Chrissy actually said afterwards, oh, and I forgot, I should have told you this and I should have told you that. But anyway.
She's lobbying for a sequel appearance. Okay?
Yeah,
I think the new Nick Egan of the show.
think so. Yeah. But she's got some great photos, which we put out onto the socials, and she's busy looking for the photo of Michael and Michelle at Paddo Market. I'm looking forward to seeing that one. Did you see the one with Gary in the sling?
No, I haven't. And but I haven't listened to the episode yet. But I'm keen to be a fanboy and listen in, and I guess take into account everything Chrissy had to recite about her experiences.
Well, we didn't mention it on the show. It was more that she showed me the photo. She says, I can't understand why Gary had his arm in the sling. So sources told me that he had an operation on his hand.
Well, Gary was a big rugby fan, so you never know. He might have had a bit of midweek rugby back in the day or whatever there. And Gary may have been the pseudo roadie and have been forced to carry all the equipment, I guess. I could never see Michael an equipment carrier. No wonder he was the lead singer. He didn't want to carry stuff. I don't think Michael's forte was carrying stuff. What do you think?
Just a girl on his arm.
Yeah, that's all right. Well, yeah, plural. But yeah, so look, we're approaching episode 200, and we've got a few little things we're working on to hopefully celebrate and commemorate the time. And we've got invitations out to a few different guests that we will debrief once we know more. What's come across your INXS world in the last probably 2 weeks that we haven't spoken?
Lots. There was, since we spoke, there was a box that appeared that was like a roadie box. I told everybody about it last week, but it was very interesting. We thought these boxes would be empty. One was, you would have loved it. It had John Varys's name on it, and obviously it had the drums in there. Paul Jolie nabbed it, right? Because I sent it to him. Right. He says, yeah. And he went to get it and then phoned me and says, I kid you not, there was another box and it was claimed that it was Michael's, and it was full of Michael's clothes, full of his Dr. Martens awards and everything. But these people who were selling it have taken it out. So we don't even know where all this stuff's gone now.
So rewind a little bit for me, because I'm a little bit slow on the uptake. There was somebody auctioning off a box, not our goodies for our competition, but someone else. Is that right, on eBay?
No, actually, do you know Facebook Marketplace and Gumtree? Right. It was on there, and I saw it, and I thought James would absolutely kill me if I bought that for $500 and stuck it there, which is where it would have gone.
Now, for listeners who don't know, B's heading to Bali soon. That would have taken you from the villas overnight down to the beach in the mimos, huh? Okay.
Right. And like everybody else, I thought they're going to be empty anyway. They're just boxes, and they're just going to be like full of dirt. I sent it to Paul Jolie, the photo, and he said, oh, my wife would kill me. And I went, yeah, my husband did kill me.
So Patron Paul, for those who don't know, long-term patron, big contributor to our show, he decided to bid on it and won it. Is that right? And this box turned up at his place?
Well, no. Well, sort of like that. Yeah. Right. He didn't have to bid. He just paid for it. Right, okay. He went, and I've probably told his wife now how much it's cost.
Right.
Sorry, everybody. Yeah, it was a bargain. Yeah. So he went to, he spoke to the guy on the phone because it was the girlfriend that was selling it, And this guy was a little bit loose with his mouth and said, yeah, it's got Michael's DMs in there and awards for Wembley, belts, clothes, all sorts of things that are like, how did that happen?
Right.
So anyway, it's been like the INXS squad team behind the scenes.
You know, it sounds like we could open up a podcast called CSI INXS The Box Mysteries.
Yeah.
And we could have an offshoot podcast attached to this.
And it said signed guitars as well.
Right.
I mean, it's just like, imagine opening that box. Oh my goodness. But this guy said, I think I'll send it to Tiger, but there might be stuff in there that wasn't for Michael. It might have been, for someone else. Well, I hope it all gets the rightful owners anyway.
So we're going to see Paul Jolly in Michael's Wembley gear prancing around the stages of Penrith, are we? Is that what our Paul's going to be doing?
I think so. Maybe. Although I was told that the DMs are very small. So Michael had very small feet.
Okay.
There you go. Well, we'll leave it there. Aidan, we'll leave it there.
Well, what is that expression? What they say about a man with small feet?
Got a big nose. No.
Small shoes. Moving right along, we're going to welcome our patrons aboard.
I'd like to say hello to everybody outside on the highway. Let's all say hello to everybody outside. It's about 10,000 people at least. Hello.
All right, we've got a little bit of a topic today. I thought we would go back to the roots and the very fundamentals of what this podcast is about, celebrating INXS music. So we have probably in our 196 episodes, had 7 or 8 episodes dedicated to what we would say are iconic song in the INXS canon. And we know we've done an episode on Burn For You, and I think Never Tear Us Apart, and The One Thing. And we've done, an episode on Don't Change, What You Need. And we're going to be adding an extra one into our canon today. And we're going to talk a little bit about The Stairs, which is probably not a commercial juggernaut, but probably more a critical and a fan darling. So looking forward to diving deeper on that a little bit later, B. Everything from the song, the lyrics, the video, and what that song sort of means some 33, 34 years later. So that will be what we will unpack in our topic of the week today. B, what's it time for?
It's time for the news.
Into the news section. I've been sort of chock full in my research today, sort of going through all of my Google alerts and all my little sort of tidbits, etc. They're coming up with the news. And I'll start things off. Probably not so much INXS related, but probably music related with a bit of an INXS link. Oasis are reforming for a UK tour next year worth hundreds of millions of dollars, B. Have you got your tickets yet?
Yes, I spent my $500 on that. I know most of the UK are going. I don't know. Is it a world thing, really? I mean...
Well, we probably need a bit more time to unpack sort of this sort of stuff. Oasis and INXS have a little bit of a checkered history, given what happened at the Brit Awards in 96. It was a rather young Noel at the time. I know a lot of INXS fans never forgave Noel. I sort of know Noel and what he is and what he's about. And, he has a memory sort of like a sieve in some ways. Like, I think back to him catching up with Damon Albarn from Blur and having a chat, and was filming going, what was all that thing about in the 90s? We were having a go at each other, weren't we? And Damon looks on at him like, what do you mean we're having to go at each other? You guys called us art school, this, and that. So I don't know if Noel's memory of everything's always as great.
He just has no filter, does he?
He has no filter.
Yeah.
Nor does Liam. Well, yeah, I've yet to see the two in the same room yet talk about this reconciliation. I wonder if it's gonna be like sort of sticky tape on the stage where they have to be separate from each other. It feels to me like a cash grab, but I'm sure for a lot of fans, it's going to be a momentous occasion.
Yeah. Well, have you seen Oasis in concert?
I have. I actually saw them here in Melbourne at a rather small venue. In fact, I saw them at the same venue where I saw Noel Rodgers last year.
What year
at the Forum Theatre.
I did.
What, in Melbourne?
Yeah.
At the Forum?
Yeah.
Right, 2002.
Oh, no, not 2002.
Yeah, so they were the headline at Livid, which was one of those big outdoor events, and often they'll have a sideshow. This was a sideshow, so I went along to that. Yeah, had a great time. But yeah, so I haven't sort of seen them in the big arenas, but where we saw them was probably even more perfect. In fact, I saw Noel play with High Flying Birds as well down at the Palais. So I have seen him, which has been good.
Yep.
But getting back to sort of more INXS news.
Do you think there's some bets on like how long it's going to last for?
Well, the tour is very compact. Let me put it that way. I don't think they're going to stretch it out too long, although it has, I believe, and again, I saw this morning. I don't know if it's fake news or real news, but I believe they're going out through Asia and through Australia. They're playing in Perth 2 gigs. Now, it was through Sky News, and I don't know if it's official or whatever there, but sometimes you see these fake reports. But, that was something that was being denoted. They're playing 2 gigs in Perth. And in Australia, last year, Coldplay only played Perth, which is closer to Asia than almost Sydney and Melbourne. So it may be true. We will confirm that as we know more. But speaking of more gigs, Noiseworks, aka John Stevens, are headlining a One Electric Day in November here in Melbourne, out at the Werribee Mansion, at the amphitheatre out there. And they're going to be supported by the Baby Animals, Birds of Tokyo, Wolf Mother, Killing Heidi, bunch of bands there, sort of very much an Australian affair, and they will be doing that in November, which is sort of festival season as it gets warmer here.
That sounds also good.
Yeah. Also, too, there is a little podcast called Monday Music Minute, and episode 186 has a little deep dive into Sub Pop, the label in the sort of grunge Seattle area, but also a little acknowledgement of INXS, which is pretty cool. And equally, I was listening to a podcast before coming on today, B, called The Nerdery and the Murdery. I thought that was a cool name of a podcast. Episode 115, they do a deep dive on the swing, Listen Like Thieves, and Kick, as they sort of talk about their love of INXS, particularly that era.
Last week, I mentioned to Danielle in our news section that there was a podcast in Perth. They were called Clazy and Lisa, I believe. And they did something called a pub crawl. They were talking to lots of different musicians. You heard Tim Ferriss come on. Great, really good interview, really interesting. But one part, they asked him, what are you going to be doing for your 50th? The INXS 50th year. And he says some big things are happening.
Okay.
Exciting. So we'll have to... Yeah, they better.
Might have to pull out that INXS concert idea for them and stuff.
Yeah, do it again.
That I emailed drunk late at night.
Do it again. You can tag me in if you want.
Okay, fair enough.
Back you up.
Well, speaking of Perth and WA, in the southwest of Perth, Andrew Ferris did an interview last week with Triple M in the southwest, I think promoting some upcoming gigs on his national tour, which actually kicks off on October 24th, my lovely mum's birthday, at the Brass Monkey, which I think they've got origins at, and it goes through to sort of November 10th in Freo. But in the middle, around Halloween, they're playing in Melbourne, so I might see if I can get along to that particular one. I know you've seen Andrew live before, but he's going to be debuting songs off his album, The Prospector. So look forward to that.
Did you see his little Facebook video about the hats?
I have, yes. All the different hats and things and stuff like that.
So adorable.
They are. They're cute, aren't they?
They're like little pets.
There was one where he was in a little town in upstate New York or somewhere there about a festival coming up, and he's very good to follow. I think he also did part 3, got released of his chat with the Morning X radio show in America with Barnes and Leslie, and they sort of released part 3 of that chat. So he's a little bit on Media Street at the moment, Andrew, which is obvious for his tour. Yes. Also, too, there's a great little article in the WA, speaking of all things Western Australia. They've got a publication over there called the Western Australian, which is their major newspaper. The heading of the ad said was, what was it? It was when the Kelly Gang went to see Michael Hutchins and the Farris Brothers. And the author of the article is a guy called Malcolm Quickett, I believe, and he talks about the late 70s, early 80s of going to see INXS when they were really the Farris Brothers. And they all dressed up as the Kelly Gang. Now, the Kelly Gang in Australia, for those who don't know, are our bushrangers. And they dressed up and they had a chance to meet Michael that night. The author behind the article said, I made a reference to about a bit like Mick Jagger. And he said, if looks could kill, that Michael gave him.
Really?
Because probably in those early days, Michael was trying to be himself, but he probably was compared to Jagger in those days.
Yeah.
I think the article's behind a paywall, so if you can't get through to it, apologies, but it was quite a good article. Also, too, in some major announcements, Kirk has gone blonde. Have you seen that?
Yeah, it's been happening for a few weeks now, Hayden. Where are you been?
Okay. Well, I haven't announced it, but he went blonde.
Have.
I don't think we put that there. It was some gala event. He had the blonde hair going through.
He looked great, didn't he?
He's trying to do his Mr. Joshua Lethal Weapon routine.
Well, talk about beachy looking.
There you go. Well, he's married to a beachy girl, but also too, B, I think you had some extra stuff to mention here, but Never Tear Us Apart is appearing in Nicole Kidman's new show on Netflix called Baby Girl, along with Father Figure by George Michael, and they've sort of weaved it into the narrative of this show. So I think there was something that Nicole posted on one of her sort of social media platforms. Is that right?
Yeah, there was a young lady called Bobby J. Cox, who sent me Nicole's, what would you call it, reel or story. And it's lovely photos of her. She looks really hot, actually. Yeah. In the background, you can hear INXS playing Never Tear Us Apart. So I've just popped that onto the INXS Access All Areas Instagram page, but I'll try and put it onto our Facebook page later.
Excellent. Excellent. As I said, putting songs in movies and places these days, it's a great little money spinner for the band. And often, great songs often resonate for, in great storylines. I think there was a movie out last year. I don't know if it's called The Finest Hours. Maybe it was, where New Sensation appeared in the pub scene. Fishermen were singing it together as a bit of a collective. So always can have a resonance in a well-constructed movie. So thank you, Nicole Kidman.
Thank you, Nicole.
B, that's the news of the week.
Hey, this is Tim Farris. Big shout out to Hayden and B. Also want to say hello to all the listeners and INXS fans. Thanks for listening. I love you, Hayden and B. Doing a great job. Keep it up.
Thanks, Tim. And now it's time for Topic of the Week.
All right, B. Well, we're getting down to basics today. We're going to be talking about the song The Stairs, as mentioned earlier in the show today. And this is probably only about the eighth song, maybe ninth song, potentially, that we've sort of done a dedicated episode about. And some might say, well, how do you make a 30, 40-minute episode topic out of a 4-minute 55 song? Well, sometimes music is like that. If we think of some of the great songs in history, there have been university subjects on songs, there have been dissertations, theses, or whatever you pronounce it, on certain sort of tracks. The unique thing about The Stairs, unlike the other episodes that we've done in songs like Burn For You and What You Need and Never Tear Us Apart and Don't Change, and some of those that probably had quite material chart success, and obviously within that commercial and critical success, The Stairs probably sits on its own a little bit, in the sense that it wasn't a worldwide hit. It wasn't really a single, albeit in the Netherlands, briefly, as we'll discuss. It's not a track that the rank and file sort of passing sort of INXS fan would probably know or probably recount. X was a pretty popular album at the time, and being a third song off the album, being front-loaded, people would probably know of it. But I think for our podcast listeners and for our discussions over 4 years now, this track and Deepest Red and a couple of other sort of little hidden gems has sort of emerged amongst a lot of our listener base as a song worthy of doing an episode like this. So I guess I'm looking forward to sort of discussing this one with you today.
Especially because it's not one of my favourite. I'll tell you what, it has been interesting to do this because I've dived into it and immersed myself a little bit more, because I get bored with this song because the intro is so damn long and it takes so much time. But I'm not a girl to slow down, as you know.
Well, I'm gonna sort of put this thing out there, but by no reflection is as a reflection of you. But this is not a great song for people with ADHD. All right, okay, and I sort of say that, and it's almost the beauty of the song itself. And again, I have absolutely, and I think, look, this is interesting for us. We come from INXS from different angles in many cases. You're very visual with your love of the band for obvious reasons, and you love the music. For me, it's obviously about the songs and just the sounds, etc. There, the image side or the video side, it's always been secondary, and that's because I'm a guy, and that doesn't float my boat. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but this particular track does represent a little bit of a departure of what was the sort of the 3.5 minute in and out sort of bang, slap me across the head type chorus verse, and get out of Dodge. It was a very different type sort of song, and I'm going to sort of lead forward to some of the things I put towards the end of what I want to discuss today, and I'll revisit it. But Michael described this song around about the time in interviews in 1990 when the album came out. He said this is probably the most ambitious song that they'd ever written.
At the time.
Yeah, well, again, they're 2/3 through their career, 3/4 probably through their recording career in some ways. But it was an interesting anecdote for Michael to say. And when I go back and listen to the track now, I think of the song structure. And as you said, well, look, it does start off as a sort of a build-up situation. I mean, if you think of a song like The Streets Have No Name by U2, it probably takes about a minute for a lyric to come in. Burn For You by INXS, the actual album version of The Swing, Ain't No Use Pretending, that takes about a minute to come in. So there weren't many examples, within, INXS's repertoire, Burn For You aside, where they're just pacing themselves to come into it. To sort of look at this particular track and give it a little bit of a background, it was nearly 5 minutes, which again for INXS was a sort of longer stay, in terms of duration.
Well, not only does it have I've actually got time coded it here, Hayden. Because I thought, why is this doing my head in a little bit? And so before we even get that, they had the bass goes, which I do like that part when he does that.
Okay.
That That doesn't come up until 1 minute and 18 seconds.
Yeah.
And I'm waiting for that.
Yeah.
And then Michael doesn't start singing until 1 minute 41.
Yep. You know, it is probably a little bit of a jam where it's a slow jam where it sort of comes in and we see it at Wembley, as everybody probably would have no doubt from our podcast seen the version played at Wembley. But, you know, I think amongst our sort of community and amongst, you know, when we go online, we look at our messages and Messenger, we do see that it really has connected over time and grown in its sort of stature. I've put down here, B, it's sort of aged like a great whiskey.
I did see that. And and I get that too, because it's really growing on me now, as long as I can get over that intro. But it's a big favourite of a lot of the big fans. Hey, Karen Peters goes mad for it.
Well, one of the things is this. If it was a single sort of across the board and whatever, they probably would edit the start of it out. Like even Burn For You as a single, you get this slightly edited version that doesn't have the massive long intro. They sort of cut that down a bit. And they probably would have done that for something sort of like this as well.
They didn't for the video, though, did they?
Huh?
The video's got the long intro.
Yeah. From that sort of point of view and that sort of situation, okay, it is probably sort of something that does, as I said, takes a process and a time frame to sort of suddenly hit the lyrics through there as well. Did a video for this, and we'll talk about the video a little bit later. The production values of the video are very good. From a song point of view, it was one of 5 videos that were made for the X album. So I just wondered whether, you know, this was maybe originally planned to be a single. If it was, why did they not release it as a sort of a wide release single? If we think back to X, I guess Suicidal Blonde spearheading the album, they go into Disappear, they go into Bitter Tears, and they go into By My Side. So sort of, you know, The Stairs feels like the 5th unofficial single, albeit it was released as a live single from the Netherlands as the only place where it got released as a promo thing around November 91 on the back of Live Baby Live. So we had Shining Star, and then we had The Stairs live version released in the Netherlands as the sort of a promo radio thing. And I've got a CD sort of single of it back from those days. But it wasn't given a sort of a wide-scale sort of 5th single type release off X. And, you know, we'll talk about that a little bit later. But I do know probably our Dutch connections and friends and some of our friends from the collectors probably would have their own sort of versions of this and collected it over time. It was an Andrew and Michael co-write. So the lyrics obviously come from Michael and the music and the better music came, you know, from Andrew. In terms of the structure of the song, as we said, it has a massive intro. What did you say, about a minute 20, minute 30 before it hits the...
A minute 18 seconds.
Right.
Before, that's just before it hits that zoom with the beat. So it's a minute and 41 seconds before Michael starts singing. Yeah.
Structurally, it's different in the sense that it doesn't sort of, you know, have a sort of a chorus, a verse, chorus, outro type structure.
Yeah.
So it feels like there's this sort of bit of a payoff where the structure, you know, the story to story bit doesn't really come into about the 4th minute of the song. It does say story to story early in the song, but it's not really hitting that chorus to the latter part of the song. And I think that delayed gratification does actually make the song extra appealing. I've said this before about the track Wish You Were Here by Pink Floyd. They only sing the chorus once. It sort of makes the song, I don't know, holds its sort of value over time because you don't get hammered with 4 lots of, you know, choruses of the song coming in. So I think, again, part of this ambitious songwriting kicks in. In terms of the lyrics, it really does sort of climb and it hits that particular sort of crescendo. And I'd like to talk about the lyrics in a moment, but the mood of the song, it has this sense of alienation with it, and Michael sort of tapped into that with the lyrics, and we see it in the clip about, you know, people walking past each other and never communicating. You know, as the world's growing and we're so much larger and there's more people around us, it almost feels like we've never been so disconnected without talking to one another. Without being twee, but you're from England and, you know, I don't know whether you grew up in Birmingham and things, but in England, there's such a sense of village, isn't there? A community village type sort of atmosphere and geography to that country where you've got these little villages all throughout the country. You've got these various pivotal big cities like your Birmingham and your Manchesters and things. But that sense of the town hall, the place where people go, the pub, you know, England is very much like that. It's very community, I sense, in that sort of regional type areas, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the pub's the key thing there more than the town hall. I mean, I'm a city girl. Don't forget, Birmingham's a big city.
No,
so,
right.
Yeah, so...
But just your knowledge, like you can go 20 kilometres out of Birmingham and have these beautiful little villages.
Yes, in the villages.
That still seem to resonate, you know.
I think Michael was alluding more to the town squares, though, wasn't he? You know, when you see your piazzas when you go to Italy, because you could see that in the video as well. So people would go there to eat and drink. I mean, have you ever been to Europe, Hayden, yourself?
I've been to Italy and Greece and to France, and I've been to England, but I've only sort of been up to Silverstone Raceway. I haven't really done England properly, which I'd love to do.
Well, forget England for a minute. Okay. Think about Prague, and you think of Italy. I mean, I've been to Venice, and in the evening, once the day's over, everyone goes out to eat, and they all just hang out in the piazzas, and it's a real community. And I think what Michael was alluding to was that sense of nostalgia of that is actually being lost. Or it was at the time in the 90s.
Yeah.
And I find this quite a haunting song of nostalgia.
I really want to actually read the lyrics out a little bit just for everybody here, because I think they're some of the best lyrics he wrote, and I think that he captures exactly what you were saying about that sense of, you know, a little bit of community being lost. And there is a bit of an argument now that with all these devices we have now, remember, this is a pre-internet era here, but even nowadays with all the devices and things like that, and all these abilities to connect, you could argue that, you know, people have got their heads down. They communicate through technology, not through facial reactions. You sit on a train some days, you know, my car's been off the road and I was catching the train to work the other day. I was just watching people and doing train spotting, I guess you could call it. But everybody's head's down. No one's really looking. No one talks on the train. No one really, you know, interfaces and things like that. And look, these lyrics here, it starts off with, in a room above a busy street, the echoes of a life, the fragments and the accidents separated by incidents. I love that accident incident play on words.
It's clever.
Listen to the walls. We share the same spaces, repeated in the corridors, performing the same movements. You know, i.e. we go up and down the stairs. We were performing these same sort of activities and rituals every day, but we're still not interconnected like maybe we once were. Again, you know, you could say this is a pre-chorus, albeit, you know, a more that classic INXS thing where they will, from a lower tones, introduce a lyric that becomes the chorus at a bigger crescendo. But it says story to story, building to building, street to street, we pass each other, and then repeats it again. You know, listen to the walls, we share the same spaces, repeated in the corridors, performing the same movements, which sort of repeats a bit earlier. You would expect they would normally go into the story to story like a big sort of, you know, anthem sort of chorus there. And a bit of a departure for Michael and for Andrew. They then go into what is probably the best lyrics that they've ever done, which is the nature of your tragedy is chained around your neck. Do you lead or are you led? Are you sure that you don't care? And, you know, that thing is sometimes you see pain in people. I mean, you go through life and you can see people who just, you know, are wearing such a sort of a chain of tragedy around their neck. You see it in their eyes and their face. And it's a bit like you can see people who are crying out for help but not crying out for help.
Yes.
And I think he captures that in that particular lyric.
Yeah.
And then goes into, you know, there are reasons here to give your life and follow in your way. The passion lives to keep your faith. Though all are different, all are great. And then you think, okay, that could easily then suddenly veer into the chorus, but it doesn't. It then goes into another verse, climbing as we fall, which is sort of that sort of thing where I'm just trying to, you know, a bit like you two.
Balancing my life.
Well, you two have that line, running to stand still, literally in the song, running to stand still. And this is a similar lyric in the sense, climbing as we fall, you know, with one step forward, two steps back.
Yeah.
We dare to hold on to our fate and steal away our destiny, to catch ourselves with quiet grace. I mean, what a beautiful sort of lyric there, of which the song is, we know, climbing to this point. But rather than hammering it with a chorus, you know, and a repeat chorus, they just take these lyrics and they take the lyrics from, as I said, the nature of tragedy, you know, to the reasons we give, and then to the, you know, climbing as we fall. Like it's almost these three verses of lyrics and verses.
Poignant lyrics as well.
And capture that sense of social alienation there, of which they then hit the, you know, the story to story, and Michael's octave range goes up, and listen to the walls, and then it sort of starts to sort of exit itself. You know, from that sort of point of view, yeah, the lyrics really give great gravitas to, you know, that sense of, as our cities are getting bigger, you know, and
too many people, too many
people everywhere.
Yeah,
it's becoming impersonal, and that's, you know, what we're all facing even to these days. Take it forward 34 years, life's busier. We've never been more connected, digitally speaking, but are we connected, you know, with one another? And sometimes that would be probably a very basic no.
Yeah,
you know, in terms of those answers.
Yeah, I mean, like going to England and going to London not so long ago, and being in the streets, and there was a big football thing going on, and it's like all these massive crowds, and you're like, God, everyone's sort of here, but everyone's sort of in their own heads of their own, like, I want to get to the front sort of thing. And it was like, oh no, I don't want it. Whereas if you go and see a concert and you go and see a live performance, everyone feels like really,
it's a community,
yeah. That's why live music is the best.
That's right.
I'd like to play some new songs from X.
So, this song is, for the band, a real tour de force in the sense that it deviates from the, as I said, the verse, chorus, outro type tradition. And, the band, technically, really challenged themselves to come up with something quite unique. As I said, it's not a 3.5 minute Suicide Blonde that sort of absolutely sort of knocks you off your feet and lays down the assets within the first 30 seconds. It is that sort of song that is a bit of a grower. It does challenge the listener. It does challenge the audience a little bit. I understand why someone's verse minute 18, like, it's a little bit like people who like wine. For me, I just don't like wine very much. I like the effect of wine. But when I have wine with my family, I like, hey, and sip and enjoy it and savor it. And I go, listen, it tastes terrible, but I love the effect of it.
You're funny.
And that's my alcoholic equivalent of this song. Some people just got to sit back, just feel the music, feel the groove. Yeah. It builds and builds and builds, and it gives you a payoff there. But
yeah, I get it. I just have to get over that a little bit. But let's talk about the way that Michael delivers the song as well.
Well, yeah, I thought I'd like to throw to you here because this is your wheelhouse, is the video itself. I'm sure you've had a chance to sort of reacquaint yourself with the video, because I think with Michael, what you're about to say, he delivers this song in a manner, and the video sort of is a visual sort of embodiment of that delivery. What did you get from the video or his delivery overall, B?
Did I read somewhere that this was by Troy Davies, did the video?
You know what? That's really interesting.
Did you read that?
When I was looking at it today, I wanted to go sort of see who did the direction of the video. And to be frank with you, one of our listeners will probably come up with it. My gut feeling would be one of Richard's, but if Troy did it, kudos to him. I don't think he did. It looks like it's filmed in London. Okay. Some of the openings look like Trafalgar Square and some of the ornamental sort of stuff there. With Michael and the delivery, just elaborate a bit more for you.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Well, it's more black and white, and it's very like the By My Side with the white T-shirt and silhouettes of Michael's face, half a face a lot of the time. And it keeps going to a lot of live footage as well, and London. It looks a little bit more like Italy to me, as well as London as well. It's giving you sort of like inner city, but more the older buildings. It's quite got a nostalgic, haunting feeling. It's a little bit like, it's not as good obviously as Never Tear Us Apart, but it's got that sort of feel to it with the sort of like a little bit sort of like moody, haunting and soft features on it.
And even at the start where it has the rises, all are different, all are great.
Yes.
At the start. It's a really lovely lyric just to put at the start, isn't it? In the white,
Yeah. And it's one that I don't watch a lot. So it's got some nice clips of Tim and Kurt playing as well, I noticed. But yeah, Michael really delivers it with quite a tenderness and a lot of heart. I know he does that a lot with a lot of songs, but there's a lot of heart and there's a lot of meaning. He really put himself really into these lyrics, and you can hear it in his voice, not only visually, but you can feel it when you're listening.
Well, we talked about this when we talked about the X album, that it was a year or so after Max Q, and I think Michael on Max Q really challenged himself vocally, and really as a musician, it was more on him, that project with Oli, etc. But this was one of those examples where we're coming off the excitement of Kick and the Juggernaut and the style and the swagger. X, as we've said, it's probably more contemplative as an album. Songs like Disappear, a little more contemplative. By My Side, it's a bit more contemplative. Sometimes contemplation doesn't sell as well as, Michael.
It's not as poppy, is it?
Well, it's not Michael in the letter jacket with a mouse going up his arm, is it?
No, exactly.
And Michael is, he's gone from... Yeah. and Michael's gone from 27 to, 30. When this album came out in September 1990, he was 30 and a half. And when anyone turns 30, whether you're a guy or a girl, it is a chance of, and well, it's a period of maturing. And you're out of your 20s and you're into your 30s, and you generally look at the world a little bit differently, and it's reflected in the songwriting. And as I said, I think, he's very much contemplating, and he's singing this one with a sense of passion and a meaningfulness behind it. There's an authentic sort of tone in his voice when he delivers this, and particularly in the clip as well. What about the chain he's wearing being in the clip? Did you like the chain?
I did notice that. Yeah. So it's got like a black top on and then silver chain over the top. Yeah. That's like nearly on 80s, 90s, really, isn't it?
Well,
More
I
than
thought that might have got your attention, that
did.
particular one. The silhouette, though, is a really lovely contrast. It's quite artistic. It's something that you see in a lot of art, don't you? You see it in movies where they often film half the face black and white for contrast and visual effect.
Yeah, those sides are beautiful, and I've put that as our little poster for this episode, actually. So I hope you all enjoyed that.
I look at the sort of the next section a little bit. I want to talk a little bit about the legacy sort of the song, and I like to take myself back to when I first heard it. And I remember playing X at my house, where I was living at the time, and growing up, I think I was at uni, and I was into my first year at uni, and you would start with Suicide Blonde as the first track, and that was the sort of the stomper, and then we went to Disappear, which I was just like, wow, what a vocal, what a lyric, what a sonic sound of things with John, writing and co-writing that with Michael. And The Stairs was like that draw breath, pause, this big long intro. I knew it sounded good, but as I said, it was just one of these classic ones for me. It was a bit like whiskey. It sort of grows on you over time, and, savouring the taste and the merit of the song took me a long time to develop into. And I don't know whether it was Michael passing, and sometimes his more contemplative performances often resonate more, like Just a Man and songs like that since he's passed. But I think The Stairs, I was very intrigued when I did read one of the articles, back when X came out, and I talked about the tracks. And, Michael was very proud of this particular song for obvious reasons. Within a year of this album coming out, they're playing at Wembley, and I think it was played in the first 5 or 6 songs at Wembley. And, I think that's helped give the song a legacy and a standing. It sort of just ends, doesn't it, at Wembley? It doesn't sort of have a big ending. It sort of just goes, it turns off, and then it goes dark. I always felt like it's a bit like, okay, it'd be like Send a Message. It just sort of ends, without much notice. But I think England, particularly, X was such a sort of a big album success for the band. It probably was a track that resonated there. As I said initially, it wasn't sort of immediate. It was probably a grower, and I knew it sounded good, and structurally it was interesting. I think as I've gotten old, lyrics of all artists have meant more to me than just sometimes the songs themselves. And I think, these lyrics particularly are sung with passion and meaning, and they're such well crafted. It's not a political song, and it's not a love song. It's a song just about life and about social alienation, which, bands in Australia like Hunters and Collectors were very good at. The Angels, We've Got to Get Out of This Place, was a cover of the Animals song. Social alienation is such a big thing. Do you fit in? Do we fit in? We all grow up wanting to fit in. And then as society grows and, one makes the way into the world, we're all seeking acceptance, and we want to seek validation, and we want to feel part of something. And I think Michael really struck a chord, with this one. And I think, as I said, the lyrics is just as relevant today as they were back then. And back then there was no social media, as I said earlier. There is now. But there's a lot of people out there with 500,000 friends on Facebook, but they've got no one to go have a beer with. You know what I mean? And I think that's sort of where, I find, true meaning in this particular song.
I'll go for a beer with you, mate.
Well, we've got our INXS community. In terms of legacy, how has it sort of retained, its appeal? I think through our podcast, often songs we like, we talk about it. It has influenced people to go listen to it and connect with it. Just interestingly, through websites and through fan forums and through various things over the years, I've loved the fact that this song has been quite high up there in people's likes as what you would call more of a deep album track. It has built a little bit of a cult sort of following along the way. I know at the end of the 1994 Winter Olympics, it was one of the closing sort of tracks at the time, and INXS had quite a rich history with the Olympics, having some of their music sort of played over even the most recent Olympics be in Paris, as you've said to us recently, and all the way back to Barcelona and things. There was also in Billboard magazine around about the 22nd of January 2015, which was a bit of an acknowledgement of Michael's, would have been 55th birthday. They did have an article saying 8 classic songs revisited. And 7 of the tracks on that particular article were all singles and things. And, well, some were sort of slightly, less well-known singles like Not Enough Time. But The Stairs was one of the more album tracks that appeared on that classic 8 list of by the author saying, hey, go check this one out. I think you'll definitely enjoy it, and it will reward you with repeat listenings. An interesting discussion, B, and I know this is probably sort of something, when I think back about X as an album and I think back to sort of Kick, they were on such a climb, and their star went north. So from every album that they made, from the debut album to Underneath the Colours to Shabu Shabar, Swing, Listen Like Thieves and Kick, they went up millions and millions and millions and millions and millions extra in sales. Mm-hmm. So when you hit Mount Everest, sometimes there's not always another Mount Everest to hit.
Yeah.
X sold very well. Some say it's probably up to over 10 million in sales, and that's nothing to sneeze at these days. But often it's sometimes judged against the predecessor, which is Kick.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes as a band, and whether it comes to, critical success and things, I wonder whether this track, if it was released as, and this will probably confuse some of our listeners, but it probably, might sort of, confuse you a little bit. But in a world where if this came out as the first song off X, when the whole world is sitting there waiting, what are they going to do next? And so let's just say they didn't put Suicide Blonde out or Disappear as the first and second single, and they put this out, would it have had an effect on the band in a critical and a potentially commercial and in an innovative way where they've gone, wow, they're really dialing it up here. They're really mixing it up. They've really come back to something really completely different. Suicide Blonde was a stomper, hit top 10. It came back. It was great. It had harmonica and things. But was it enough of a stylistic departure from Kick? Whereas a song like The Stairs may have sometimes people going, wow, INXS have really matured on this album. Look at this. This is really the men growing and blah, blah, blah. It's something I think about occasionally. I'm probably one of a few who probably think about it occasionally. But could it have created more of an Achtung Baby type perception about INXS's development musically? Because the one knock on X was, it's really Kick Part 2 with harmonica and a few little sort of swings.
Yeah, but By My Side did that.
What do you mean in terms of?
The song, that, I mean, that's very different to what was on Kick and very different
Some
to
people say it was Never Tear Us Apart Part 2.
Yeah.
Orchestra, ballad, fourth single. Some people say that.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is that generally when you have a new album come out and we look at artists and things, the first song that leads the album is the advertorial of the album. When U2 came out at the end of 91 with The Fly, that was such a stylistic departure from anything from the Joshua Tree or Rattle and Hum. So they got a lot of good press and a lot of sort of, brand tax about development and moving your sonics to a different sort of platform of skill because of The Fly. If you dive deep on Achtung Baby, a lot of the stuff does sound a bit similar to some of their older albums. So, but The Fly was so intrinsically different. They got quite good press from that. I just always sometimes wonder whether The Stairs, and look, you didn't need to do the big intro. You could probably put the single out and cut the intro down to 30 seconds. But
so you're not saying a first single off the album. You're saying a first track.
I'm saying the first single.
Oh, okay.
So I put it this way: if you're, and I think back to 1990, I go, Kick's been out for 3 years.
Yeah.
It was in the charts for 2 years. We've had about a year off from the band, a year and a half, where we're not hearing much at all. Mike was doing his solo stuff. But if I was to suddenly be the musical press and I was suddenly becoming back to revisiting INXS as a band, and I want to hear something completely different, would The Stairs have been that sort of aha moment in the sense where we're going, wow, look at this. This is a complete shift and it's pretty good and it grows and grows and grows and grows. And would it have had a different sort of propulsion for the band?
Would have had a different propulsion for the band. I think they did the right thing. I think there's a story as well, don't forget, with Suicide Blonde, with Kylie, and there was great visuals with Michael with the silver shirt on and all that sort of thing. So I think they did the right thing. I'm getting what you're saying.
The other thing here is that I remember when Bitter Tears came out as the third single, I nearly cried. I was like, oh my God, why are they releasing that? Because it was a song that I thought was okay, but I didn't think it was single worthy. Now, over time, it's grown with me and I like it more, etc. there. But, maybe The Stairs could have been the third single from the album.
Maybe, yeah.
And then, By My Side was never released in America, which was a bit silly because it would have gone top 10 there if it got released on the back of the other tracks and would have given them a little bit more, gravitas there. But
just maybe it could have worked if it had been the opening track of the album.
Yeah, well, we think back to Cherry Cherry. I mean, that has a long intro, doesn't it? Show me, Valiantly Wasted. That takes, a long while to bring itself in.
I see that working.
Yeah. So
in retrospect,
Yeah, that's true. But look, I think taking back to the merits of the song itself, as I said, pleasingly, at the time, I remember this very clearly. I was up in Cairns in northern Queensland and they were saying, a song that in 10, 20 years' time that I think, will still sound great and be relevant will be The Stairs. And I remember something that Michael had said, and I think, here we are 34 years later talking about it on a podcast. As I said again, it probably doesn't reward the ADHD sort of hit me quick with the chorus type thing. But if you can, as I said, divorce yourself from that and understand INXS as a band and as any entity. They weren't Bon Jovi, okay? They weren't Def Leppard. They weren't a band that was just trying to release cookie cutter, pastiches of themselves. They wanted to, challenge themselves in so many ways. And when we put our deep dive list of our album tier to be, remember the album tracks, and we put all that list together, and we sort of had our trade-offs and things. Mm-hmm. I mean, this was right up there with obviously, one of the songs that were on that. And we think to our many loyal listeners and to people who were just singles or greatest hits listeners of the band, INXS is a band that tried not to do filler tracks. They tried to make every song merited on the album, and they didn't want to just do 3 or 4 hits and then just fill it with a bunch of drivel. Those who think that probably haven't actually gone back and listened to the songs properly to do that. As I said, a great album that I've mentioned before on the podcast is an album by Prince called Sign of the Times, which is often voted higher in critical acclaim than Purple Rain because there's so many cool tracks on it, so many leanings, so many left and right turns, and it rewards you with extra listening. And it's not just all the cliche Prince songs that everybody knows. Yeah, but you were gesturing.
I was gesturing because I don't want you to finish because I want you. Well, I do want you to finish, but not just yet. We haven't.
That's what she said.
I heard. She told me. Don't go red, Hayden.
Okay, I won't.
The guitar part in the middle. See, it's not right in the middle. It's towards the end.
Yeah.
But that's Kirk, isn't it?
I think so. It's that instrumental break. Yeah, it's great.
I love that part. I really love that part. That's awesome. And
INXS don't do long solos. That and Devil Inside are probably the two that just stand out. But it's a great little instrumental break there, and then it goes into that last chorus bit. Listen to the walls again. I think it's got so many little elements to it. I'm sure it's probably going to naturally be our play out song today. But I think if it's a song that maybe our listeners haven't given credit to in the past, or maybe have just flicked through, go back and play it a few times. The great thing about lyrics that you can be passionate about. Like, I think this is going to sound really weird, but think of a song like I Will Survive, right, by Gloria Gaynor.
Is that one of your favourite?
It's not one of my favourites.
But leave the cake out in the rain,
I think it's a song that I was about to say you would have done karaoke with. I reckon if that came out at the nightclub, the girls hit the dance floor, don't they?
Yeah.
It's like an anthem. It's like an anthem, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a good one.
And sometimes, there are sounds of songs, whether it's guitars, drums or, vocals or whatever, that make a song cool. But, I challenge you when that 3-verse section earlier we talked about that in the nature of your tragedy, etc. If you're going through an up and down time, or someone going through an up and down time, or, you're feeling a bit melancholy, they are quite sort of anthemic type sort of lyrics, but done in a sort of a restrained way that really have a resonance about them. And I think that something about, song lyrics particularly, certain songs become classics because of that lyrical strength and that sort of, that I Will Survive. It's such a sort of a powerful sort of message, to people. And some songs capture that. I think this is a sort of a song within INXS's arsenal. They did capture something that wasn't commercial. It wasn't sort of flag bearing and political and grandstanding, but it was something that was, meaningful to them at the time.
They loved it as well, all the band.
Yeah. And I think it just, as I said, it holds up now. So,
do you know what though, Hayden?
Yeah.
INXS songs, all are different, but all are great.
I like it. And on that note, B, I think it's time to call it a wrap. All right, B, well, that's a wrap. Yeah, I've been a bit behind the ledger the last couple of weeks. Did we have a competition that came to the end in August? Did that get drawn last week or whatever there?
Yes, well, me and Danielle were about to do it, and I went, hang on a minute, it is the 31st in Australia, but we still had another day everywhere else. So I thought, we've got to give everybody a chance here. Okay. And I must admit, Hayden, how busy I have been. So can we do the draw next week? Is that okay? You
can get some more raffle tickets, is that right?
Well, I mean, we haven't closed it, so if you do want to, everybody, you can go ahead and...
All right. So what's the deal? What's the price on the tickets? What do you have to do?
They're $20 a ticket, and you can go to our website, which I think you probably all know now is INXS accessallAreas.com, and it's right on the front page there. You just click on buy a ticket and you can go into the draw, which we'll draw next week, to win. In the package, you've got one of Kurt Pengilly's guitar picks. Gorgeous. Yep. You've also got an autograph by himself and Tim on the GIF CD single. And you've also got a flyer from the Mystify movie that Richard Lowenstein did, and also some candid photos of Michael. But, Hayden, what have I got?
You've got a skateboard.
Look what I've got. I feel really cool walking around town with this.
Right.
How good is that? It's not the actual one, although you never know, it might have been. But this was the actual, this is 1986 as well, model of the Psycho Stick skateboard that was actually on the Kick album.
Right. Okay.
So, yeah, you see Michael stepping on it and it's like that on the actual cover.
Right.
So we've been given this to do some sort of raffle or
okay. So that's the next one coming up, the next competition.
That will be the next competition coming up. We'll be putting that onto the socials. But it's pretty cool, isn't it? I'm going to put some pink wheels on it. Yeah. My son's had a go on it. He's like a mini pro skater and he's fast. And the reason we've got it is the owner broke his wrist. So
okay, fair enough. Occupational hazard. All right, moving quite along in our sort of narrative with the band, and I know a lot of people have been texting me and asking me what's the upcoming episodes. Well, we're very close to unpacking something you'll be excited about, which is the original Sin re-recording album, which had drum opera on it, one of your favourites and things, and produced by John and James from the Rogue Traders. So that should be coming very, very soon. As I said, we've got the feelers out to a couple of people. Come on, JD, answer your emails, okay? You're going to miss out on the podcast, okay? You're acting like you did when you were with the band, a little bit irresponsible.
Yes,
funny.
you're being irresponsible. This is your time
JD.
to shine.
Come on, JD, speak up or forever hold your peace. Otherwise, we'll tell the narrative that we want to tell. Come on, jump on. We've got a couple other little invites out, so we're working on that. Yeah, any other things to announce before we exit today, B?
No, I think we can keep everything under wraps because, I think there's some really cool stuff coming up. But Get your tickets, guys, for the raffle. You've got an extra week there because I haven't got it together.
All right, we're going to go out with the stairs. We're going to do something a little bit different. We've never done this before, B. We're going to go out with a different band and a different person's version of the stairs. And it's not anyone famous at all. I think it's just a YouTuber. And the gentleman's name is Victor Hugo. He does a very fantastic version of the stairs, an acoustic version. But it's a beautiful version. It's a beautiful video. It's a montage of Michael there. I thought just in terms of the lyrics that we highlighted today, you really do get a chance to capture them with this particular version. And it does sound very much like Michael, almost to the point where it took me 57 seconds to realise it probably wasn't. Probably good for our licensing, B, that we don't put a straight version on.
That name seems familiar to me. I'm thinking he might be actually a listener.
Who knows? But Victor Hugo's got this sort of version there. So he's only had 431 views. So
at
hopefully we can help him take that over 2 million by next week's episode. So we'll do our best. Yeah, so we're going to go with that one today. B, it's a goodbye from me.
And it's a goodbye from B. Goodbye, everybody.